Friends and family.
Hey everybody. Hey, God is
I'm
good.
with my dad. Hey,
I'm
daddy.
with my girl. I'm for
How you doing,
sure.
handsome?
I'm doing well. How are you, sweetheart?
I'm very well.
Looking beautiful
Doing
as
good.
always.
You sweet.
Looking beautiful as always.
Thank you, Papa. I like that stripe.
Oh yeah. I'm like a referee. I'm official like a referee without a whistle. All right.
Not a referee without a whistle.
Yes, ma'am. That's me.
How y'all
That's me.
doing? I hope you're doing good today. Welcome in. Get comfortable. Get something to drink. Get a blanket. Get cozy. What we talking about today, Daddy?
Well, I think we were talking about legacy, and I think we were talking about oral history and how important it is for fathers, mothers, uncles, and aunts to share the oral history of the family, not just the triumphs, but also the trials and the tribulations that are family, because it's very important that we realize where we came from, which allows us to GPS our lives better from where we are.
Mm.
It's difficult to map out a route when you don't know the destination and you don't understand the pitfalls of that route. And oftentimes, when I have history with my dad and my mom and where they came from, my grandparents and where they came from, it allows me to navigate life. It gives me the knowledge to understand why I have certain urges, because everything that happens in our lives comes from the environment we came out of. It's the influence of someone. No one is an island to themselves. No one can say, I made myself. No, you didn't.
Hmm.
You were the compilation of all the relationships you had, broken and good. And it's the hope in my life and many of our lives that the good far outweighs the bad.
Right. So yeah, and what comes to mind when you talk about that is like when we talk about relationships in one of our episodes, I remember you mentioning when you are in a relationship with someone, especially when you marry them, you're not just marrying that person,
You're marrying their history,
marrying
their
their
family, their
where they
genealogy.
come from, the tendencies, the character.
Daughters and daughters and sons have a tendency to look and act like the parents that they saw.
Hmm.
And so you may want a certain kind of woman to complement your career or a certain kind of man, but you may fall in love with a different type man.
Yes, sir.
You understand? And you fall in love with a different type man. It's not that he's a bad man, it's that his recipe is different than yours.
That recipe, them
His
ingredients.
desire, his vision for marriage is different than yours. I find with most people, uh, it's not a human problem, it's a vision problem. I can't believe for what I've never seen.
Right. Right.
I have to see it to seek it. And in order for me, for us to create successful relationships, at some point throughout the generations of our existence, we have to come to a place and say, well, listen, my past ain't what I wanted to be. I didn't look like I wanted to be. I've done some things I shouldn't have done. I might have lived a promiscuous lifestyle. I might have lived a drug infested. I might have been angry. I might have done whatever in my past. And I'm obligated to disclose this to my seed.
I believe there's an obligation. And
Just like,
keeping it quiet and trying to pretend like you're pristine and things didn't happen because that doesn't help them identify when they start growing up and facing the same urges or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. Listen.
No, I just think that there's really something to that. Like the last episode where we left off, you were talking about the importance of oral history.
Mm-hmm.
And not just it's oral history is not just relegated to, slavery times or geographical locations of families, but
Mm-hmm.
that oral history about these are the things that I struggled with in terms of
Yeah.
my esteem. These
My
are the things
personal
that I struggled with in terms of my personality or
relationship, how I handle,
yeah,
how my relationship with your mom wasn't our first relationships. So there were relationships that I had previous to your mom, and your mom had relationships previous to it. It's my obligation to talk to you guys. It's
mm,
my obligation to tell my son the liabilities and my daughters the assets and the liabilities of relationship. Now, when we don't, what we don't defeat, we're destined to repeat. You know,
And as parents, that's not just us, it's our children as well, right?
yes,
You don't
yes,
defeat it in us.
it's generational repetitiveness.
There we go.
It continues and continues and continues. And here's the thing about it too: the environment you grow up in establishes your expectation and what you expect from a relationship. Now, here's the problem with the environment you grow up in: it creates an air of privilege.
Right.
Now, here's what privilege does: privilege creates an atmosphere that equals feels like oppression.
Explain that, Papa.
When you're a privileged individual and you no longer can hold that privilege, or someone no longer gives you that privilege,
Oh,
you
okay.
feel you are being attacked. Much like what we see in America. Let me see if I can quantify this.
I mean, I'm thinking about myself.
Yeah, much like in America, there has been a certain privilege afforded a certain segment of our society.
Yeah.
When equality is mentioned, they feel attacked.
Yes.
It's. Let me give you a relationship scenario.
Okay.
You grew up in a home where your mom was not an outside
Mhm.
worker. She worked inside of the home.
Yes,
That's a privilege.
it is.
Not a right. It's a privilege.
Privilege.
Okay. It's a privilege that you guys got to see and enjoy.
Yes, it is.
But I taught you that it was the exception, not the rule.
You did. But you also taught me that, and I don't want to sidetrack you, but for the
Mhm.
purpose of clarity, so that the dynamic of the home, you afforded mom the dynamic of your relationship. She was a at home mom, and you were the breadwinner.
Mhm.
That's a privilege.
Very much so.
But even underneath that, the how do I say it? So that's like the improved package, right? Like that's the marriage package with options, privilege.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the basic package still includes consistent provision,
Most,
consistent.
most definitely. Most definitely. But those consistent provision, depending on your expectation of relationship, you have to abate your privilege.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Whereas you have seen this,
Mm.
but you may meet a man that says, hey, listen, I need two incomes. For the thing that we need to do, we need two incomes.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a privileged individual, you're gonna be like, what do you mean? My dad never worked. My dad never made my then you're out of your element and you're out of time and out of step. Most relationships don't work because we're missing steps.
Mm.
We call them mistakes, but they're actually missteps to the relationship. So we get married, but we really haven't taken the steps to get to know one another, and we don't have enough history about one another. We're getting married purely on endorphins, sex, the desire to have that commitment,
Mhm.
but we really don't have a firm grasp of the foundation of the relationship we have. And there's an expectation. You come from an atmosphere of expectation. He comes from an atmosphere
Yes.
of lowered expectation. He's not less of a man.
No.
The problem is many times is because we men fail, you ladies fail,
Yeah.
and we make it the whole instead of the individual. And we see failure as an individual thing, but failure is not an individual, it's a corporate thing. It's a generational thing. I didn't fall. Anytime I've fallen short, I never failed by myself. There are generations before me that I watched fail and followed their pattern.
Mhm.
You understand? So I think with that, uh, every relationship has to find its flow. I think when we were discussing a Facebook article that one of my good brothers placed in on Facebook, and we were discussing. Unfortunately, we can't find it, but it was the expectation of a man and what he expects from a woman. I take it. Am I close?
Yeah, so like the lead in was that relationships are give and take, but
Mm-hmm.
the totality of
With
the actual poem
woman's forgive.
was all these things that a wife and a good woman is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is a part of the frustration of the climate of women, or us women that are dating or are in relationships where we're not married yet.
Mhm.
There seems to be this like overarching societal expectation that women are supposed to be all these things. And there's even also like this cultural thing where men have taken it upon themselves to become relationship gurus and tell women all the things that they need to do and how they need to show up in relationships. And it's not so much that I personally have an issue, but again, I understand that I don't necessarily have an issue with it because of where I come from. But I also understand the other side of it where there is a frustration like, how are we we as women are being given all of this instruction as to how we're supposed to show up in relationships, but we hardly ever hear men talking to men about how they should show up in relationships, you know?
I think you see what you seek. I
Mm.
think we
Hmm.
as internet individuals, and I'm a research individual, you and I are very inquisitive individuals. If I'm looking for positive virtues in a woman, I'll Google that. And I'll find a proliferation of that I didn't know exists because I've
Yeah.
been spending my time listening to guys who have no authority of what a man is really about because they're not really men. Now I'm going to say something. Oh my God. Oh my God. Now I want to say this, and in no way am I trying to offend or to be denigrating in any way or to take away from someone's masculinity, but it's difficult for me to listen to an individual who may have same-sex tendency about how to relate and what a woman is. And many of the men talking this stuff have same-sex tendencies.
Hmm.
So they don't want you women to get men because they want them.
Oh my.
It sounds far-fetched and it sounds very conspiratorial, but let's look at our society. Men should become lovers of themselves, proud, boastful, lovers of themselves more than lovers of God. Even a man that used to leave the natural use of a man for natural use of a woman and burn in their lust one for another. It's all in the scripture. It's not to be denigrating. It's not
No.
to tear anybody down.
No.
It's in the scripture. So if I'm a gay man, then I'm gonna tell you everything that a woman is supposed to be, so I can frustrate men who are seeking you because I want them.
Hmm.
Be careful who you take your advice and your information from, because what you seek in information is an indication of the state of your spirit. If I'm looking for everything
Mm.
negative in a wife, I'm gonna find everything negative in a wife.
Be careful for what you seek. Seek in or seek for information
Mhm.
because who or what you seek is an indication of your.
It it defines what I'm seeking on the internet. Define. Let me give you an example.
I like that. And that's true.
Googling has been the greatest revelation of a man and a woman's heart.
Mm.
Being able to Google information that you can do secretly and nobody know about
My
it
God.
is an indication of your heart. Why do men not call me back?
Yeah.
Why do men do? What are the virtues of a good man? What should I be looking for?
Yes.
What should I Google for? Well, I'm going to have, rest in peace, Kevin Samuels and other people who have their opinion, other uh, uh, talking heads who have their opinion about, and they can share all the things. This is what a man wants from a woman. This is what a woman should be, and all of that. Which clearly to me, there's some basic tenets of what a woman should be, uh, and there are the basic tenets of what a man should be. But everything else is fluid, and how it manifests in relationship is different from person to person.
Yes. Yeah.
How we arrive at this point of being able to be married 40 something years, and how we got here, that's the story. The
Yes.
story is not the number of years. The story is the journey
Journey.
and
Yeah.
what detours had to be taken from my attitude to adapt an attitude of a family man. What detours your mom had to make to adapt to the attitude of being a woman that's provided for, because that's a whole other psychological thing that women go through,
Yes, it is.
because, again, when we don't take things as privilege, I can't position myself as a privileged individual because I've done certain things as a dad. I still have to win your love. I still have to romance my daughters. I still have to take care of my son. I still have to be that father because I could rest and say, okay, now you guys owe me.
Right.
It's privilege is a sense of being owed something because you've always had somebody to do it for you.
Right.
Because if you're a privileged individual in relationship or in life, you will never see life equal. You will always see yourself as someone who is being assuaged or attacked.
Huh.
We march on Washington for our rights, civil rights movement. Violence was perpetrated upon us as a people, not because we wanted to take your place, not because we want what you got. All we want is just to have equality. In relationships, sometimes, if you're privileged, you don't want the relationship to be equal. When the relationship demands you to do something that's uncomfortable, a woman ain't supposed to do that. A man ain't supposed to do that. Whoa, 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 whoa. Are you so privileged within relationship that you can't see how you are sabotaging the relationship because your feeling of having a right to certain things?
So do you feel like today a lot of the issue within relationships, you gave a really good example in the climate of just the general society and how it's obvious and evident that there are a certain segment of people, race of people who have experienced a certain privilege in the country. But just in general, like with what you're talking about in terms of like relationships, do you think that that is kind of playing a major part in the downfall of relationships, that the idea of privilege?
And I say this because of those of us who embrace Yeshua or have a relationship with the Creator. We base our relationship on what the preacher terms as a descriptive understanding of marriage. We take that and try to overlay it over an individual who does not have the history of being able to make that visionary in their lives. So you have a couple going to church, loving God, but their marriage is in the toilet.
Right.
But because of not understanding what the scripture means by wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, husband, love your wife, all of that contextual thing that needs to be contextualized, not only from a scriptural standpoint, but it needs to be contextualized from an existence standpoint. Where are you right now? Can this really be, can I be a man that can fully take care of my house with one income? Realistically, no. Not where we live now. In the society we right now, no couple should expect to be married to a Black man and the woman not expect to have to contribute financially because of the environment and the economic climate that we live in, as well as because of the thievery that has taken place over history, where we as a nation of people have endured over the years. So the expectation must meet the privilege. In other words, I have to be able to meet the privilege that my wife's asked for. My wife, your mom, she wanted a good dad for her kids.
Yes.
She wanted to feel safe. She wanted to feel secure. That was my job. How I accomplished that is not necessarily definitive in points and husband, love your wives, take care, all of that scriptural stuff that we try to make, that we try to quantify into a culture or into a scenario that's really not workable until you have to make some adjustments in how that lives itself out in your life.
Relationship.
Because the same experience I've had with your mom, I see other couples whose wives worked, and they worked as a team, raised great families, produced great kids. Their upbringing and their kids demeanor and persona is equal to yours and equal to my kids, but they had a different environment, a different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So when we say, when we deal with the basics of responsibilities where a woman is concerned, take care of the house, raise the kids, man is supposed to provide, cover all of these, uh, whatever sayings that we
Points.
have, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that we have, it don't always look the same way.
Right.
And when you come from a place of seeing it, it becomes your expectation. And when you don't get it, because you don't see it as a privilege, you see it as the normality of life.
Yeah.
But that's not his experience. That's not her experience.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I do that.
So
I
I
do.
think that we should fully develop and fully envelop the, how can I say, the way we were created as men and way we were created as women. I think we need to embrace that. The lion that's in the man, the lion that's in the woman, that part of us that makes us fulfill our roles because it makes you feel feminine or it makes me feel masculine. And that's another subject I want to get into because we always say no one can make you feel anything. I totally disagree.
I do
And
too.
I think that we lose our relationships because we lose tact of how to make one another feel. We do that when we're dating.
I think we get off because no one is in your body pushing your buttons and causing your body to do certain things. But I think everyone can agree that it's the energy that you contribute to an atmosphere or into an environment that either promotes what you want to happen or doesn't promote it, right? And so
Mhm.
when I hear you say you can't make someone feel or you can make someone feel a certain thing, that's kind of the way that I think about it. Like as a woman, I can say, Daddy,
Mhm.
I love you so much.
Mhm.
So handsome.
Mhm.
Can I have $20? Or I can say,
I need
Dad,
$20.
when I was growing up, you wasn't always there for me as a kid. And so today I feel like you should give me
You
$20
owe me.
because you owe me, right?
Yes. Right.
One creates an atmosphere, an environment that feels like, yeah, I want to give her what she wants. The other is like, oh, wait a minute, I feel attacked.
The other one is privileged language. I'm
Mm.
owed this. You're not a good man because I'm owed a good man. When I married you, I told you what I wanted. You owe me this. I've told you what I wanted as a woman before I married you. When we were dating, I told you what I needed from you as a wife.
That hurt my feelings just now.
But if you listen though, I'm seriously, and
It's
these are the conversations
yeah,
over the years that I have been privileged or positioned to hear. Uh, Disappointment,
yeah,
uh, brokenness.
yeah.
Not that expecting a certain level of response to what you need in a relationship is wrong. There's nothing wrong with the expectation, but the lifestyle you have must meet the expectation you desire. You can't have an expectation of having a great marriage and then have no endurance to go through brokenness in the marriage.
Yes, sir.
You can't say, well, I want to be married 40 years. Do you think you're gonna live with somebody 40 years and see the same thing all the time? Hell no. Excuse me. I'm
Be
speaking in
married
tongues.
for 40 years and never be accountable for your behavior. Be married for
Mhm.
40 years and never be willing to say, I'm sorry. Be married for 40 years and never take one on the chin. Be married for 40 years and never just say, okay, even when you don't agree, even and not okay like in like a smart aleck way, but it's okay in that I'm yielding to this
Yeah.
moment for agreement, for the purpose, for the sake of agreement, for the sake of alignment. Yeah, no, you're not gonna make it to 40 years if you always
You know
gotta
what
be right.
you just said? What you just did? I'll tell you what you just did and didn't even know. You just resist the devil. You just
Right.
submitted yourself to God, resist the devil, and he flee.
And
Most of us
we go.
don't know that the enemy of our existence leaves when we stop giving way to his information and do something totally different.
I,
Most of us believe when we entertain negative information long enough that it's going to turn into a positive.
yeah.
your mom and I was talking,
Yeah.
and I think this fits what we're talking about. And this came to me. If money won't make you what you are not, and you don't need money, here's what I said. If you don't need money to be happy,
Mhm.
why are so many people rushing to be unhappy? I mean, you hear that all the time. Oh yeah, I'm blessed, I'm rich, but money don't make you happy. So why will you take off your clothes to be unhappy? Why will you rob to be unhappy? Why would you cheat to be unhappy?
Why, Daddy? Answer that question. I know it's
Well,
rhetorical, but
well, when you covet after, when I'm in a relationship and the goal of the relationship is the acquisition of things. I marry him because he's a baller. I marry her because she got her own bag. Uh, the motives of the relationship is the material source. The bottom line is that you're already dealing with a pure soul,
period.
because the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, while some have done anything possible, coveted after, have pierced their own souls. Now listen what they pierce their souls with: sorrows.
My God.
The more you pursue stuff,
My God.
the more sorrowful you become. How many rich, happy people do you know?
I know a lot of rich people
And they're so busy trying to stay rich.
because it's a distraction from looking at themselves. Because I feel like when you chase things, when you chase status, when you chase fame, fortune,
Mm-hmm.
attention, anything that's outside of you, it's
Uh-huh.
because you don't spend a lot of time with you,
Mm-hmm.
inside, with the inside of you,
Right. I agree. I
right?
agree. Yeah, I agree.
Is the definition of a pierced soul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the problem is I fully embrace the scriptural understanding that God prospers his people. But I believe that there is a prosperity that comes from a soul and spiritual encounter.
Yes.
And there's an enrichment of the hand because there has been a changing alteration of the soul and the spirit, which manifested in the way you treat people, the way you forgive, the way you're gracious. It manifested in that way. And I believe that because of that, God can bless your hands and enrich your hands and
Yes.
give you uh, blessings in life. I'm an example of that. I'm blessed. I don't have any compulsions anyway to say that I'm saying taking a vow of poverty. I'm just saying that acquiring, going into a relationship because he's a baller,
Mm-mm.
or going into a relationship because she's fine.
Mm-mm.
It's not the basis of building a relationship. It's the basis of creating an attraction and creating a lustful atmosphere, but it's not the ingredients to build a relationship. Because when you start building a relationship, then you start have to define how we manifest what we see in the Bible. How does I know what pastor does, and my greatest challenge has been as a pastor is that even though I did this with my wife, that's not every man's
That's
role.
right.
I don't want ladies to believe that he's a good man because his wife does not have an outside job.
Very good.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Or he's not a good man because he takes care of the kids and she goes to work.
Very
Because we can better financially provide for our family if he's home because she makes it more sufficient. It's defining those dynamics. I've had that over the years as a pastor. I've had young couples come to me, and he's part-time worker and takes care of the kids at home. And they went through some challenges because of how I presented the scripture and how I presented the male.
Mhm.
And I had to redefine and refocus what I was teaching because sometimes we lock what it looks like in a box. And anybody that deviates from that box, oh, he's no.
Yeah.
Thus, we come up with a list of what women ain't. That's where we come up with lists of what men should be and what they ain't. We come up with those lists.
Well, I like
And
how you brought that home. That was good. I'm sorry,
we
keep
do.
going. Yeah.
No, we do. We come up with those lists. So consequently what we have is that we have individuals in relationship trying to design a marriage that they don't know what they're designing.
Right.
They're taking pieces of what he
Right.
said, she said, and we're trying to create a relationship. And we have to understand too, what I am at 25, I won't be at 65.
Mm.
It's all transitional,
Yes.
you know. And I think the biggest thing in relationship, especially when you have been doing it for as long as we have, is the art of appreciation.
Yes, sir.
Because the art of appreciation can be lost in familiarity.
Yes.
It is the goal of every real man to get his wife and kids to be familiar with provisions. As a young husband, father, it was always my desire never to have my kids worry about lights, food, clothes, or transportation.
We never did.
So when I struggled with being able to provide that, that was never your business.
And we never knew.
And because of how I was raised, it was never your mom's business.
Right.
You understand? But every man's not like that.
Right. Okay.
That's your parent. Go
So,
ahead.
so for me as a young woman who grew up in that kind of home with that kind of dad, is it reasonable for me to anticipate that kind of character display?
Character, but the display will be different.
How would I know the difference?
The character will be displayed in his commitment to loving you.
Okay.
And even though he may not be a model of me, what he brings in other areas becomes and compensates for that. The greatest thing in a relationship, and this is what I've heard over the years, is that most ladies, women, females want to just feel safe.
That's
Defining safe sometimes is difficult. And when I say that,
mm,
safe for some women is I need a Rolls Royce. I need a
mm,
this. And this is the general this I can't speak to the 80s because it wasn't like this when I got married. It was a totally different time, totally different.
right.
But I gotta speak to the current season that we live in. It's like I told you before. You can't catch whales in a pond.
No, you can't.
You want a whale, you got to go in the ocean. But here's the thing about the ocean is big.
Mhm.
And finding the place that you can get what you're looking for is very
That
difficult.
that's going to require a very specific compass set, right? That compass is going
And different equipment.
in different equipment.
Now you can fish from the bank in a pond
Right.
or get your little boat and go out in that little safe area. And if you fall out, you just swim to the shore.
Right.
The point that I'm making is relationship is a risk.
Mm, yes.
But we want pond relationships. We want to be safe, but we want accountability. Accountability and safe don't go together. Don't go together. Submission and rebellion don't go together. Accountability and safe. You can't be accountable and safe unless you're safe in accountability.
I don't understand, Papa. Explain
In
that.
other words, here's what I'm saying. When life requires you to adjust to the relationship,
Yes.
that's a thing of accountability
Yes, it is.
and being accountable for your own action. If you're privileged and your husband loses his job, he
Mm,
just needs to do better.
mm.
But if you're accountable, honey, let me go find me something to do. I don't care what I got to do
I see.
to take care of it.
I see what you mean, which if you define your safety in your privilege, or you define your safety in your husband being the breadwinner, then it's going to be compromised. And because you're not going to be able to be accountable.
And the pressure you put on him,
I got
because you're making him define you. And you're making him become a failure because he lost his job.
you.
Or
Oh.
because his skill level is not what it used to be, or because he's gotten older, he doesn't, whatever, the economy, and he requires more of you. Privilege will say, I'm not doing anything. That's on him.
Mm.
Because as a wife, it's his job to provide. As a man, uh, I'm not doing anything where my wife is concerned because it's her job. I'm not taking care of no kids. That's her job. I'm not cooking. That's her job. I'm not cleaning the house. That's not. And please, ladies, do not believe that I'm the traditional kind of man that believes a woman's skill is limited to just that. That is a part of who she is in her nature, but that's not the limitation of who you is. You're far more vast, far more powerful. And this man has great respect for women and their ability to endure painful. If they can have babies, they can do anything.
Pretty
My
much.
wife, my wife became superwoman after that.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
and so I think with that, Lee, and it's always when we were discussing doing our session today, I was thinking the word privilege.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming to me because
Yeah.
we're dealing with privilege of a certain nature right now in the political world and in our business world. So I
Mm-hmm.
keep thinking about privilege, but I take what I see on the vastness on the political scene and the world scene, and I narrow it down to what happens in my house and in my neighborhood and in my endeavors.
Yeah.
What I find in our place is that having a good woman is not a privilege. It's not a right. It's a response to a seed.
Period. Period.
When you go out of your way to
Mm.
provide for your man or provide for your woman, there should be a continual show of appreciation, not a relaxation saying, okay, I can just, I've seen it on both sides. I've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
women have great men that were great providers, but the relationship fails because she doesn't want to contribute
Mhm.
in that sense. She doesn't want to, how do I put it? Be,
Reciprocate appropriately to the relationship
there
because
you go,
it's not equal. What do you say? It's not equal gift.
for equal
Equal
sacrifice.
sacrifice.
That's a good one, girl. Go ahead.
That's what you say. I love that, Papa, because I've always gone into relationships desiring that. That's my framework for relationship, right? I grew up in the kind of home where you were the breadwinner, but I've always wanted to work. You
Yeah.
know,
And
it
I've always encouraged my
you
girls to
have.
find their own careers, get your college degree. I've always felt very strongly that it's easier to take care of you if you've taken care of yourself.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna say that because when you take care of yourself, you understand the value.
Yes, and I do.
It's when you've never had to do it and
Yeah.
you walk into a relationship where someone does it and he or she does it seemingly flawless.
Hmm.
You don't realize that you can become a privileged individual and you can limit your prospect, you can limit your potential because you settle in this mode of comfortableness
Hmm.
because he or she is doing those basic things. I don't know if that makes sense or
It makes perfect sense.
not.
I think it's relevant for this conversation because the culture right now is, women are looking for ballers. If you don't make X amount of dollars, you can't date me because I make X amount of dollars or because I'm pretty or because
Mm.
I'm this or that, whatever the reasons are, right? Um, and so it might look just a little bit different than the women that came before us who were privileged or fortunate enough to marry men like you who were willing to be and able to be breadwinners. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the same kind of mentality. If you are the kind of woman that will only date a man that earns X amount of dollars these days, you still got to understand that
With that comes
that comes with its own set of stuff. just like the woman who has a job herself or has a career herself, and she's looking for a partner, she's looking to partner with someone who also has a career. That's going to come with its own set of stuff, right? um I think what I hear you saying, because I want to bring this home, is that ultimately it all starts with you. It all starts with us as individuals knowing ourselves,
Mhm.
knowing what values matter the most to us,
Mhm.
knowing what we want to experience within a relationship, having the vision, a vision for ourselves, not just the relationship, but for ourselves within a relationship,
Individually, I agree. Mhm.
and knowing those particular bullet points as it pertains us as individuals, not what we see the next couple or what's hot on Instagram or what's hot on social media or what society says you should be doing, but to thine own self be true. Knowing oneself enough to be able to have a vision for the kind of relationship that you want to build with someone and how you plan to show up in said relationship.
Mhm. Well, it's like I've said this quote a number of times. Relationship, and it's so true. If I could give some advice as a 60-some-year-old man, some experience in relationship, always know, don't marry a man or a woman because you love their strengths.
Right.
Marry them because I
Only.
can put up with their weaknesses.
Yes.
Most of us go into relationships because, oh, he's handsome, makes good money. Oh, she's fine. She has a great job, great career. She loves kids, and we're going to have kids together. Okay, great. What are her weaknesses?
Yeah.
Because that's where they're going to make or break the relationship. What is his weaknesses? Because relationship, the basis of every relationship is a strength accommodated and a weakness tolerated.
Yes.
Our relationship has been based on your mom's ability to tolerate my weakness and accommodate my strength, and vice versa. Now, here's the problem in relationships. What if his strengths are your weakness? In other words,
That's a
what
good
if
thing,
you're
though, right? Because where I'm weak, then he would be strong.
okay? But most of us don't see it that way. The reason that is because most of us hide our weakness because we want to appear to be super, men and women.
That goes back to what I just said. That's why you got to know yourself, and to thine own self
There
be
you go.
true.
There you go. And understand, I'm marrying a weak person. I'm not marrying. He don't come fully equipped.
That's right.
She don't come fully equipped. They're learning things within a relationship, and most of the learning has nothing to do with the idea of the thing itself. It's how we process it, how we manifest it in this relationship.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? It's like, okay, uh, as a man, I'm desirous to be the provider of my home,
Right.
but my limited education and my uh, limited exposure to employment opportunities caps me out at this.
Right.
But I got aspirations for this. The worst thing that a woman can be is tell him, I thought you were going to be.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh,
And tell him, baby, listen, you're all I ever need. And if I have to keep helping you the rest of my life, we in this thing together. Why submit yourselves unto? See, it's the balance of both worlds. Hey, baby, listen, I'm working my way. I'm working you out of a job. I don't want you. I don't want my baby out there working. But right now, we got to do this. Doesn't change the dynamics of our relationship, but it does change something. It changes the stability of our relationship. Because there's nothing greater than a woman who has steady employment to know that if I ever fall short, he got me, or she got me. Nothing worse than to feel like you're doing it. And if you don't do it,
right. You in it
you're
all by yourself. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that's we did a good
Yeah.
job. Hey man, I hope y'all got something out of this. Listen, I before we get off, I know my daughter's gonna have the last word, but let me just say this. Those of you that listen to this and those of you that come on this, first of all, this is a labor of love. This is not her and I trying to create an audience or trying to create some kind of popularity contest. This is years and years of experience. And my fine, beautiful young daughter has come to a place in her life that she feels the compulsion to share the wisdom of our relationship with other young ladies and other young men and other young couples. And if there's anything that we can do or say to enrich you or to help you, please send us a question, send us a comment,
Yeah.
question, send us some questions that the next time we come on, few broadcasts away, that we can come back and address some of those questions. Send some questions about your relationship with your dad, your relationship with your mom, your present relationship, and you can do it anonymously. You don't have to let us know who you are, but we would love to be able to, we solicit and we would love to be able to entertain questions and comments from our audience, okay? All
Oh,
right,
that
baby.
was great, Daddy. Papa,
All
that
right.
was great. Yes, absolutely. We invite you. You're welcome here. We welcome your comments, your feedback, your questions. If you don't want to comment in YouTube, you're welcome to email us at morsonmanners@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. As my papa said earlier, we really are doing this for you. This is um this is a complete act of love. I have decided to give back what was given to me because he is such a gift to me. And I realize that not everyone has a father, not everyone has a daddy. And I get to have the choice to give him to y'all. We'll
Very,
let y'all borrow
very
him because he's managed.
sharp, girl. You
But
sharp.
it's a complete gift of love. And I want you to take full advantage because there's nothing like having a dad. You know, there's nothing like having the validation of a father. And so, again, we'd love to hear from you. However, we can support you with information. If you have any questions, if you have concerns, if you need advice, that's what we're here for. Okay. So, like, subscribe, comment, share, follow us on Instagram. I am Elika Karina. He is
Eric
Eric
Morris.
Joyce Morrison.
There you go.
And we love you and appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love, be loved, and let love. And in the
Peace.
meantime, in between time, take care of yourself.
And your neighbor. Goodbye. God bless, guys.
Mwah. We love you. Bye.
All right.